Yo, what's going on, YouTube? Just another motherfucking video. Alright, in this video, talk about one thing. Um, Actually, two things. There's two things in this video. I forgot about the other thing for a minute. In this video, we're going to talk about positive versus negative. And we're going to kind of dive into that shit. So, most people, they come up to me. They don't know if I'm positive or negative. They haven't formed an opinion about me. A couple months down the road, they all come to the consensus I'm negative. Now, what is negative? Who gets to define that? So, is negative me being realistic in the expectations of myself and what I can achieve? Because that seems to be what's considered negative. But if we take a look at it, then my perspective of negative is completely different. Like if you're indulging in shooting up heroin, or if you're, I had a long day at work. Sorry. If you're indulging in like shooting up heroin, or like getting involved in gang violence, or indulging in hardcore substances. Um, these are things that I would consider negative, not necessarily the majority of society. I think it gets attached to attitude too much, personally, because there's a difference between having a negative attitude and having a realistic attitude. Most people seem to think that an ant can do the work of an elephant. Um, they're that optimistic, and to be honest, that's just as bad as being negative. It could even be worse, because now you're setting up unrealistic expectations of how things are going to proceed from there. So that could even be worse than just being negative. I like to try to find that middle ground, which gets deemed to me as negative usually. I'm not out here trying to become a CEO of a company. I could never be Michael Jordan, no matter how much I practice at basketball, how many hours I put into it. It just not conceivable. It's just not a realistic possibility. Besides my innate nature to suck at basketball, if I could move past that and put in all the hard work and hours, if I put in even double the hours of Michael Jordan, I could still never be that good. It's just, there's no limiting beliefs about that. There's no psychology behind that. That's just the way it is. But by saying that, people would deem me as negative. The thing is an ant cannot do the work of an elephant. There's no feasible. I don't understand why people would think that way. They get in this mode of, or spirits of positivity, and want to tell people how it is. But to be honest with you, that shit's worse than being an actual negative, which I'll get into that here in a second. So, positive. I think positive would mean doing things to improve your life, such as me making music, me getting degrees, which I've already done both. Just doing things to subtly improve your life, not necessarily for any sort of purpose other than survivability, financial stability, slash surplus, and just a overall like comfortability of lifestyle. Not necessarily for getting women, or just having nice things, because those things will come second to you surviving and living comfortably. But that's what I think positive is moving your life towards that sustainable slash surplus financial stability, and kind of getting comfortable with that, and being content where you are. Now, negative would be the opposite of that for me, and that would be indulging in bad habits, such as like I said earlier, doing drugs like heroin, cocaine, uh, getting involved in gang violence, um, doing things that would destruct your lifestyle and move you further away from that financial stability and slash surplus, and moving you away from that comfortable lifestyle. Now, when I say that, realistically, I could never be as good of a basketball player as Michael Jordan. I'm not being negative with that. That's just me being realistic, being real with the fact that um, the fact that I could never be that good. Like it just wouldn't happen. Like I lack the genetics first. Second, I lack the. I'm pretty sure I lack the muscles. Even if I were to like condition myself, like at my maximum potential, there would still be a muscle gap. Just because the nature, the biology of it, and that ties into genetics too. Like my maximum potential could be like right here, while Michael Jordan's, maximum potential is way the fuck up here. So that all just varies. So really, it's not really about being negative per se, but just realizing where you're at and what your maximum capability is, and trying to get to that point. Because, um, like in my situation, my maximum capability, I may only make like, let's say at most 20,000 a year, um, and that's with 2 degrees and knowing the shit that I know. That could be my cap out. I could be stuck at that for the rest of my life. I'm not saying that's what I make or I'm going to make, but hypothetically speaking, if I was in a situation to where that was my maximum capability, then it wouldn't be negative of me to say, which, maybe the average person could get 50,000 a year, and they would look down on me because my maximum potential is 20,000 a year, and they would see that as negative, when in my eyes that's not being negative, it's being realistic. So I can see how the confusion can occur from that perspective. If somebody's making like 50,000 a year, and that's their maximum capability, and I'm only making 20,000, and they're like, well, I make 50,000 and so can you, but they fail to perceive that we're two separately different human beings, skilled in different traits. So what's conceivable to them and what's conceivable to me is not exactly the same. So that's where the divide is. So they think that you're negative because you're like, I make 20,000 a year. This is my maximum production workload ability to financially make. It's not necessarily that they're being negative. It's just they're being realistic with their abilities and their situation. Sorry, I still got the cough. They're just being realistic with what they can do. And especially some things are situational. Their maximum may be 30 or 40, but at that particular moment in their life, they're only able to make 20,000 because it could be a situational factor. And people will look down on them for that too. It'll be, oh, you're just being negative. It could be something totally out of their control. Like I said, we got situational factors, we got genetics. It could come down to a lot of things. So that's where the main divide is that I see often. So most people think it comes down to having like a negative attitude or positive attitude, and really that's subjective too. But that's a topic for another video, because what one person may see as negative, another person could see as positive, and um, that's getting into like a perception type deal. And I don't want to go down that route quite yet, so I'll save that for another video. We'll talk about perceptions, how your perception of people and how other people's perception of you affects that. We kind of briefed that over in a previous video, but I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into that. I think I just hit the mic there. Sorry about that. But anyway, basically just wanted to kind of dive into positive versus negative, my take on it, and kind of just go from there. So we just kind of recap here. Negative would be indulging in drugs, gang violence, things of that nature. Positives would be getting a promotion, working on a passion, and increasing your income other ways other than job promotion, like maybe starting up a side business, and doing things to improve your quality of life. So for me, it's not necessarily about the attitude per se. I mean, part of it is, but people put too much emphasis on that and focus on attitude, and then they think that when you realize you reach your maximum potential in something, that's negative. When they're higher in that same category, their potential's higher, and they're higher than you, they tend to look down on you. Not necessarily consciously, but it's kind of a subconscious thing that goes on in the thought process. Things that I've just noticed in the past. So that's my opinion on positive versus negative, and kind of defining it from my worldview. Other than that, let me guys, excuse me, let me know what you guys think, and we'll maybe have like a discussion in the comments or something. Anyways, I hope you guys excuse me, are having a good day. Oh yeah, the second thing I wanted to talk about, one other thing. I'm gonna try and do one video a day. It could be short, could be long. Don't really give a fuck. But I'm gonna try to have at least like one deep thought a day about things and post about it. Or I might do something just totally off the wall. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But I'm gonna try and do at least one video a day. Aside from that, I hope you guys are having a good day, like I said earlier, and good weekends. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.